and go.
We're recording, my good
Okay.
homie.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. I guess this is the third vampire session. Sorry for the wait, I suppose. Things obviously have happened since then, but we will move forward. Where last we left our group of intrepid anarchs, they had just gotten done going to Vanarost's Emporium of Antiquities. And if that wasn't the name, if I'm using a different name than what I said last time, well, here you go. There's the new name. I don't remember what name I gave the place last time. Leave me alone.
You're so valid and we love you.
In any case, so you all, well, yeah, basically almost all of you have now been resupplied with a good amount of supplies. And so it has been some time since then. The Anarch movement and the Camarilla seem to have been kind of quiet since then. You're, from what you have probably guessed, is probably just because of them just dealing with their own world happenings, I suppose. But it is a cloudy July day in the state of Washington, as it usually is. And when each of you wake up, and I assume by the time each of you have checked your respective mails, you once again receive a letter. However, this letter is just a little bit different than your usual fare. For one, it's not sealed with the seal of the Anarchs, or any sort of seal of any Anarch iconography that you can really point out. Doesn't even look like it was written in Garrett's handwriting. Instead, on the waxy seal, you see the intricate symbol of the Camarilla, which looks just a little something. Let me just get a better. No, that's okay. These are all, well, boy, you're not helping me out at all, are you, Google? Because these are all white background ones. Whatever. I'll give you what I can. It's gonna look a little black on the screen, but whatever. Here you go. No, that came out fine. So yes, you see that symbol on the waxy seal of the envelope. The only bit of writing that you see in the front of it is your names. Just your address with no return address.
So is it addressed to Melodia then?
Yep.
Ooh.
And the same goes for you, Jim.
Constantine.
Constantine also receives a letter slipped underneath the crack of his hiding arrangement.
Yeah. He kind of...
Yeah. I'm going to say none of you need to make any sort of roll, because let's face it, in vampire society, you all know what the Camarilla symbol means, or what that symbol means. Yeah. Every vampire knows what that symbol means.
And I'm crunching some ice.
But in any case, so we'll start with Melodia and Theodore, since I'm guessing Theodore is basically near Melodia as she gets the mail.
Of course, yes. Sorry.
If anything,
No
Theodore
worries.
probably brings her the mail because she's like, I don't need to be bothered by checking the mail. I'm busy. And by busy, she is sitting on her bed amongst her stuffed animals, having discussion with them.
Oh, very busy.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably a habit by now. He's probably always getting her mail at this point.
Well, then if that is the case, then Theodore, you see the symbol immediately, or at least you see the wax seal, you see that symbol, and you immediately know what that means.
So his eyes glint a little bit while he's looking at it, and he quickly takes it to her, sort of tucking it in his coat as he goes along.
Okay.
Can I say that today she,
I'm sorry, what was that?
today she's probably got him dressed up as fancy as ever. I found an outfit that, looks kind of like the kind of level of obsessively frilly that she would probably put Theodore in.
Oh my goodness. Oh, beautiful. He looks amazing.
I just assumed it was something like from Black Butler or something. But
So then he's hiding it under his frill a little bit, I guess, as he heads over.
He can pull it out with a flourish.
Hmm?
He can just whip it out of the frills, like, whatcha? Incredible.
Yes, he does. He twirls it a little in his hand. It's like, I have a letter that may interest you today, my lady.
Oh, is it from? And she's clearly excited for something, but then she sees it's the Camarilla, and she's like, oh, it's not.
It's not that yet, but this is still something interesting.
Well, of course it is. It's addressed to me. She takes the letter and sets it down for a moment before she reaches into her, she reaches under her pillow, and she pulls out, because she's sitting on her bed, she pulls out her little tarot deck that's in its case, and she pulls it out, and she's like, and she pulls out a card. She turns it over, it is reversed, and it is the Wheel of Fortune, and she kind of grimaces, like, you open it for me.
My pleasure, miss. And he goes and he takes it, and I'm guessing he would have a letter opener on him.
well, either that or he literally just opens it up with his finger. Like,
Oh, that's, I
with his
guess.
nail. Yep, just
If he has the nails where he could do that with a bit of flair, then definitely.
Yep. Well, you're precise and strong enough to easily do that. Just with a flick of your hand, just flip, and you take out the piece of paper. Within the letter, though, something does fall from it as well, and it falls to the ground, and it seems to be a theater ticket. 2 of them, to be precise.
Oh.
So do you look at the letter before grabbing the tickets?
Well, no, he dropped something, so he'll pick up the tickets first. Like,
So
he doesn't inspect them, though. He's like, it seems we've been given a gift.
indeed, you have. And you look at it, and it is to the Paramount Theater. To a showing of Phantom of the Opera.
Oh.
2. So you have 2 tickets to the Paramount Theater for Phantom of the Opera. And do you then read the letter?
Yes.
Melodia literally just sits there awaiting for Theodore to read it aloud to her, essentially.
Of
And
course. Like a storybook.
she's kind of glancing at the card that she pulled while he does.
So you look at the letter, and it reads, I know that I know that the Camarilla have wronged you, and I know that it may not be the best organization, but one must understand. The Camarilla is the source of infrastructure that the world needs. It's the source of structure that vampire kind needs in order to stay stable in these trying times. I know that you and your group didn't have to help me, but you did. And I want to let you know that your kindness and your risk will not be in vain. I will do my best to make Camarilla Society and the greater Vampire Society better than it ever has been for centuries, and for centuries more to come. I hope that I can live up to Gareth's expectations. I know this isn't much, but I thought that you and your group at least deserved one quiet evening of peace before what inevitably Gareth sends you to do next. Regards, Percy.
Well, that was kind of them.
Truly. Well, I am one to like the theater.
It has been a while, I think, since we've been to our last show.
You don't suppose every other Anarch got a... I wonder who will see.
And on that sort of question, Jim, with Constantine receives a similar letter. And if they were to open it, they will find the same type of ticket with the same type of note from a young Percy, who that name should be instantly familiar to you, since that's the kid you saved last time, the kid who would become, or who is to become, the new prince of the Seattle region.
Constantine just looks over this note and everything with it. He kind of cocks an eyebrow at it, and then he just is like, he takes the tickets. Then he looks over at like his sort of hovel of an apartment, which doesn't really have much of anything entertaining going on right now. And he just is weighing his options, and then he just kind of gives up and he shrugs. He decides to put on like the best sort of clothes that he can manage, which is not really that great, but the best he can do is a very wrinkled the best he can do is like a very wrinkled sort of polo shirt and a ratty dress coat with some decent like pants and shoes. Before he decides to leave his little thing though, before he locks up and does everything, he goes into his little locker, and he goes into his little locker and he pulls out his his Glock, and he just puts it inside his jacket. Just in case, He's paranoid. He'll do that.
I mean, obviously. So you do that, and you guys head off to the Paramount Theater. So you go there, and the house is, there's a little bit of a line going, so there are other people there. We're going to go down the line and say that Melodia and Theodore are the first to the first to arrive at the theater. And waiting for you there. Well, I mean, two figures in particular seem to point out to you, and it is the figure of an extremely statuesque, very large, wide, bouncer-esque looking individual holding sort of a child's umbrella and holding it over a much, a very familiar, small looking child. The young Mr. Percy. In fact, he looks over to you, Melodia, and sort of does a little bit of a wave to come over here.
Oh, Melodia is smiling happily. Oh my god, wait. So Percy has someone holding like an umbrella over him?
Mm-hmm.
Melodia pulls out her own umbrella and hands it to Theodore and is like, hold this over me, I want to feel, you know. She wants to feel
course.
also special. So she gives him her umbrella. So
Can't have them taking all the spotlight.
she's like, yes, look, I too am very fancy. Anyway, so once that happens, they walk over.
Perfect. Beautiful.
Well, and when you arrive, Percy's just like, oh, thank you for coming. I didn't. Well, I mean, I'm glad you arrived. I guess you don't have to worry so much about being out in public.
Oh, of course not. I happen to thrive on public attention.
Yeah. So you do. Are you the only one, or? And of course, as he says that, Jim Constantine arrives next, I'd imagine.
Constantine doesn't really have a form of transportation except maybe hitching rides off of the side of a bus or something. He finds his way around. He doesn't have a car or anything like that, but he literally just shows up after basically hitchhiking off of someone's car.
Yep, you're kind of just hitching along on the back of some bus. And as the bus sort of makes it stop, you step off as well, and you approach the theater rather casually. You do get some onlookers sort of look at you with a little bit of a strange look, but, most of the others, though, just sort of assume that, whatever, he must be some sort of eccentric tech millionaire or something, some inventor of some app, you'd imagine.
And Melodia sees him and is like, oh, Constantine! And gives a little wave.
Constantine notices this and he does a much shorter and less enthusiastic wave.
Oh, well, interesting choice of clothing, but it works.
You know, if you'd like fancier clothes, I have plenty in the wardrobe for Theodore.
Constantine just sort of signs. I don't go to functions like this anyway.
Well, that won't do. I can take you to functions. You should come with us sometime.
He just signs again. Maybe.
Melodia's got a little twinkle in her eye at the idea of having another guy to dress up nice and take places and show off.
Theodore's smiling and nodding. He's like, don't worry, she'll know how to show you a good time.
He just he does almost like an eye roll and a nod of his head like, oh yeah, sure. I'm sure she does.
She's a baby, don't bully her. Melodia looks at Percy and says, thank you very much for your invitation.
Sorry. But yeah, it's like, oh, no problem. Well, hopefully this will be a good show. It's it's not Hamilton or anything, but hopefully it'll be a good enough show.
Oh, it's Phantom. It's a classic. I think it would be very hard to screw up Phantom.
Well, with any luck.
Constantine just signs, I remember this show.
Oh, do you?
Well, Constantine's an old fucker. He'd remember Phantom of the Opera as being like, oh yeah, I understand that.
Well, actually, that does make a little bit of sense. Well, I mean, the large, imposing figure behind him holding the umbrella just sort of, you can almost kind of hear like the rock dragging sort of sound effect as he just sort of leans over and is just sort of like, the show is about to begin. We'd best take our seats. And just with his stony drag back upright, Percy's just sort of like, oh, right. Thank you, Brutus. Well, let's hurry to our seats then.
Constantine nods and he motions the Percy and Brutus forward.
Melodia is happy to skip along, but once they reach the front, she's like, "Oh, please do shut the umbrella. We're going inside now." To Theodore, just like,
Right. And he gives her a smile and a nod as he does so.
she
Puts it under his arm.
she reaches up to link her arm with his free arm.
Aww. He would gladly escort her in.
She's just like, yes, look, I have Butler. He lead me in. Look how nicely he is dressed. Yes, look at me. Hee hee. Would the members of Camarilla High Society that are like here, because this is literally, we got Percy here, so clearly a lot of big Camarilla bitches are here. Would they just recognize her on sight, considering whose daughter she is?
Well, they assume, well, you're the lion's daughter, so they they obviously would recognize the lion's daughter, but they're not going to say anything or mess with you because most of them know what would happen if anything were to happen to the lion's daughter.
I feel like she might recognize a couple faces just from like people who her dad has schmoozed with, or who have schmoozed to her dad specifically. So as she's going in, she'll wave to a couple like, "Oh, hello, Julius. Hello. Oh, how are the like, like, how are your kin? How are, just like to a couple of them." Just like, yes, I am the social butterfly. I might be young, but I'm very powerful and influential. Don't forget it, bitch.
Yep. Well, let's see. Some of the recognized faces that you see are, let's see, the Falcons, who are, you remember as being a little bit more of like the high society kind of crime family among the Ventru. This is the guy who, although does have a little bit of a tiny political career, you also know that Falcone is very deeply has his fingers very deep in some shady things. The usual sort of stuff, weapons smuggling, a lot of drug sort of stuff, that sort of thing. Lot of shady illegal business. The rest of them tend to be. The rest of them are basically like some of them some tech mogul CEOs, that sort of thing. You recognize some members of Percy's family a little bit. A lot of extra cousins and stuff from that side of the family, and you do eventually you see a figure that you think might be Percy's father. Just sort of, at least you assume that that's like Percy's old man. surrounded by all those folks, but you're not really quite sure. You do know that whoever that person is, they are heavily guarded. In any case, but yeah, you after schmoozing and after pointing out, essentially asserting your own divaness and the like, you eventually make it to your seats. And the show begins as expected. It goes off without a hitch. And the show eventually comes to this little number right here.
I want
And
to say, just before we get into it, I'm curious how Constantine reacted to seeing Melodia be so like that. Because I'm assuming Constantine, like, the seats that they got were close to each other, if not beside each other.
Constantine is just like so he's sitting down while all this is happening, yes?
Mhm.
Yeah. He's just kind of he's pretending to not pay attention, mainly. He's just sort of sitting there minding his own business. Or trying to anyway. And like he's like and there are like a couple of them that they can't see him necessarily, but he can see them, and he like and maybe you might be able to see that he's fucking death staring a couple of them. There are some of it he just doesn't fucking like at all, but he's keeping to himself for now because he doesn't want to make a scene in a public place.
I want to say that when Melodia finished schmoozing and she went to sit by Constantine, she like leaned over to him and just whispered like, "God, these people are so fake." Sitting up straight to watch this show. Like she literally like schmoozed at them and asserted her dominance, and then the second she was near Constantine, she was like, "Oh, thank God, someone I can talk shit to." Look at these fucking idiots.
Yeah, Constantine just sort of after she does that, he kind of gives her he seems confused for about 3 seconds until he's just like, "Oh, okay." And then like and then you can hear them exchanging like little mini like little you can hear them exchanging little mini anecdotes. Of course, she's the only one actually talking, but like where he says one where he like go and say one, it's like said like it says that one owed me money. That one kicked me in the face. That one did this. And it just kind of goes down the list like that.
Melodia hearing this and nodding like, oh, really? Oh, good. Like, ghastly gasping at, like, the offenses they've committed against Constantine. And she's like, well, you have a friend in a high place now. Perhaps I could get back at them.
Constantine shrugs.
She looks specifically at whichever one he said kicked him in the face, and it's just like, oh, oh, I think that one owes Daddy money. And she claps her hands together, like, oh.
She's like, ooh. And he's just like, and he kind of like, he's not, his expression doesn't really change to like smiling or anything, but he just like raises one of his eyebrows, stay like an "oh really" sort of expression.
And she's nodding and she looks at Theodore like, oh, I think this man's in for a terrible time, Teddy. Oh, we're going to ruin his day.
I do believe so.
And she just hugs Theodore's arm, like, while she's getting ready to watch the show. Because she's just like, oh, yay! Someone who hurt
Yeah.
someone I like, now I can hurt him back. Yay!
It's like it's so funny because you just see him sign. You like Melodia sees him signing. You high society types are fucking crazy.
I suppose crazy is a word for it. But we prefer to think of it as just cutthroat.
And then he
Mhm.
signs again. I'm Malkavian. I know crazy.
She gives him a look like, well, I suppose I would too.
And then he like does a little thing where he like snaps his fingers a bit, and then he like points towards the stage like,
Yep, it's showtime.
"Yep."
Yep, and you do, and yeah, again, it goes off without a hitch. You go to the final scene, or at least the scene where Eric and Christine are doing their Phantom of the Opera song bit.
The one that everyone fucking knows. Yeah, baby!
Yeah, one that literally everyone knows. And yeah, the person, the person playing Eric is fine, but the woman that's playing Christine though is someone that immediately just sort of grabs your attention just because of just how really good at the part she is. She even has the beautiful long red curly hair, uh, the ever so slight little touch of freckles on her face, the almost perfect model like body, and she belts it out with like the loud belting sort of force that any professional opera singer has, essentially. And you finally get to the bit where Eric does the whole "sing for me, my angel" sort of bit of the song, and she starts belting it out. But however, after the about a few seconds of belting out that number, uh, the lights to the theater immediately turn black, and it is pitch black. And in that pitch blackness, the music stops, the musicians stop playing immediately. You hear an abrupt stop from that, and you then hear the screams of a woman and the sound of something abruptly thumping to the floor. And as the lights immediately turn back on, you find that the person playing Christine now has a knife jammed into her back, blood pooling onto the floor. The
Melodia's.
audience
I was about to say Melodia's looking for the audience reaction to this, because, like, huh?
they do start to, eventually, like, the doorman manning the doors of the theater eventually are just sort of like, everyone's like, don't panic, get out of the theater. Everyone, they tried basically leading the people out of the theater as quickly as they can. But you do hear some people gasping, a few women in the audience screaming as, they exit the theater, and, bodyguards from all around begin to, like, get to position, crowding around people like Percy and Falcone and everyone, just sort of making sure they're protected as they're immediately led out of the theater.
Melodia's still got a grip on Theodore's arm, but instead of being like, oh, protect me, she's like, get me to the stage.
Right away, ma'am. And he starts trying to push through the crowd to make way for her.
You do. I mean, you do see a couple of doormen try to stop you on your way, to sort of like, it's not safe, ma'am. But I take it you kind of push forward regardless.
Yeah. I got a cat Scott in the theater. While Melodia's going, she looks back at Constantine like, well, come on.
he just sort of dusts himself off for a bit, and he just kind of and
Yeah?
he gets up. Yes, would you like to contribute to this?
Oh my god.
Sorry.
The best player. Anyway, but like he gets up, he's just kind of like, and he when he gets up, he like the bouncers may have been able to stop like Melodia and Theodore, but he has like a history of getting into places where he shouldn't. So he knows how to like shove his way through the crowd without getting noticed much, and he kind of just slides past the doorman in the chaos.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, even if there was a doorman to try to stop you, they seem to be more preoccupied with like the larger crowd trying to get them out of the theater as quickly as they can. You do see that immediately, though. The person playing Eric was sort of immediately sort of apprehended as he's sort of held back. Of course, he's just sort of like, What the hell are you doing? I didn't. Why the hell are you reminding me? I didn't fucking kill her. It's like, it's just, come on, sir. It's just, look, just calm down. We just have to. Well, then let go of me, you idiot. And and while that's happening, some gentlemen in black suits. All of them you do kind of notice wearing the Camarilla symbol on their jacket. Sort of, I've already sort of taken to the scene to sort of, preserve the body, preserve the crime scene as quickly as they can.
And this is all on the stage that Melodia was heading for?
Mm-hmm. You see them sort of stare at you as though they're about to stop you, but, they hesitate because, well, daughter of the lion.
Yeah, Melodia gets onto the stage with Theodore and looks for Constantine, just like, Constantine!
Yeah, and he like pushes through the crowd. He like almost gets stopped by one of them, and he does like a motion where he points to his chest and then he points to her. He says, "I'm with her, let me through."
And
Mhm.
Melodia nods in agreement. It's like, yes, yes, Constantine, here.
He like hops up onto the stage and just he gets very close to the body and just kind of squats down next to it.
Melodia, meanwhile, is gonna be approaching the people holding back the lead actor. She's curious about him. She's like, you're claiming you didn't do this.
Yes, I didn't do this. Why the hell would I do it so fucking blatantly?
That's what I was thinking. This is stupidity. Let him go.
Ma'am,
This is stupidity. Do you honestly think a man would commit murder in broad stage light? This is the perfect setup for a framing. If you can't recognize that, then clearly you don't have enough brain cells to belong in your job.
But, man, you do know who she is, right? Wait, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, just let the guy go. Mm-hmm. And they let him go.
You will not be leaving. I would like your assistance in solving this crime.
Um, it's okay. Uh, I guess I'll just sit in one of the seats, I guess.
I'd like you to stay up here for now in case I need to ask you questions, but I think the best way to clear your name fully would be to assist with this.
Sure, sure. Whatever you need.
Melodia smiles and claps her hands together, just, oh, I love when they cooperate. And she looks at Theodore, just like, well, I suppose we've gotten ourselves embroiled in a true murder mystery.
Guys, I might need to drop out. I'm not focusing very well.
Understandable.
sorry.
Have a nice day. I'll say that Melodia sets Theodore to just literally be a bodyguard, like, around the scene of the crime, so he doesn't have to be actively involved as a person. He's just literally there to protect.
Yeah, that'll work.
Let me know if you need anything, honey.
Same
Yeah.
here.
Okay, so you basically tell Theodore to do that. As you and Constantine, I guess, are primarily the ones doing the investigative work.
And I suppose now, the actor, who she does ask his name.
Oh, Philip. Philip Sheldon, at your service.
Come along then. And she goes over to Constantine and the body, and she's just like, have you found anything intriguing about the body yet?
Constantine just shrugs.
Have you been doing any investigating, or have you just been looking at it?
Constantine, hang on a second. I actually need to do something, so just hold on a minute.
Want to pause it? I'll pause it.
Okay.
Verb.
Alright, I've continued recording. So,
Yeah, all right.
she's
So-
literally just like, did you fucking just look at the body?
Constantine is just saying, Constantine is shaking his head and he's just like, he's trying, and you can see very clearly that his eyes are scanning in separate places. And that like, he's not moving his head, but his eyes very clearly seem to be tracing an angle. And like, he's trying to figure out exactly where something would have come from, which would be like, he's looking at the knife and he's looking at the blood and he's trying to think, okay, in what direction exactly did this knife come from? So would that be an insight check?
Well, let's see, because it has been a while since you've done vampire rolls. So let me just look over the sheet. That'll probably jog my memory of how that works. I'm sure if I just looked at what vampire dice look like. Yeah, they're D10s. So again, just to remember, you roll an equal amount of D10s to whatever from whatever attribute plus skill combination that I tell you. So for a crime scene, that's going to be investigation and intelligence.
That's only 2 D10s then. Fantastic. So we're going to roll
2d10.
2d10. Well,
Perfect.
they're both successes.
They have to be 6 or above.
So what does my man notice?
Well, so what your man immediately notices is, it was about as rather abrupt and quick as the sort of struggle sort of looks. As you can kind of see that, some of her clothing was sort of struggled off a bit in the fight, as though she were just sort of struggling in the attacker's grip a bit. Like, and obviously, like, the back of the clothing was sort of torn off, as though this person like grabbed her grabbed her the collar of her shirt or blouse, and just sort of pulled back. So obviously, whoever this person was, they came from behind and stabbed whoever this person was. And when she plops to the ground, you do sort of, with your second six, you do sort of notice that whoever this person was, well, it's sort of odd because usually with about as much blood as this woman had been sort of pouring out, you would expect some sort of blood droplets from like on the murderer to at least have gone, you know. But they seem to only do a few steps back and then just sort of stop. It's as though whoever this person was, they just sort of only took a few steps back before they suddenly just disappeared.
He is very confused by this information because he kind of like does a little motion. He does like a little motion over to Melodia, and he's just like, and he basically relays the same details where it's like says was attacked from behind, clear signs of physical struggle, and what was it? The blood trail goes back about a few steps and then disappears entirely.
Melodia thinks for a moment, and she thinks, the killer wouldn't be that stupid, right? But just in case the killer is that stupid, she wants to use Sense the Unseen as a free action.
Okay, you can do that. So you close your eyes and you try to look about throughout the theater, if the stranger is still around. And nope, the killer is in fact not that stupid. The killer is not in the room.
Well, best to rule out the most obvious answers. Only a few steps before they disappear. She goes up to Philip and is like, lift up your foot.
Okay. He lifts up his foot.
She leans down to check his sole for blood. Just like another way to rule out the obvious. Make sure that there are no blood stains or blood on his fucking shoes.
Well, even before you look at his hands or the rest of his body, even before you even see the shoes, you see, at least on his body anyways, there's not like any blood stains on his shirt or no blood stains on his hands. You look at the bottom of his shoes and they're clean and immaculate. Completely bare, no blood.
She looks to the Camarilla folks and asks, who was she?
Oh. And they look over and one moment.
They take a moment to remember. They take about as long as it takes for a DM to reopen his notes.
They take about as well as me opening up a name generator. Oh, that's Miss Tara Lambert. She's new to the company, I guess. Wait, was she of the blood? Or, well, yeah, from what I remember, she's. I think she was one of the members of the Ventru family, I believe.
The second that Constantine hears of the Ventru, you can very audibly hear like a sort of face palm. Then it just goes down to the bridge of his nose, like, oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Is he all right?
Oh, he's delightful! And it seems like she took "is he all right" as a question of his character and not his current state. So she's just like, oh, he's delightful. Anyway, she moves on before they can question that. Well, if there's not much known about her, then either it was a very, very personal vendetta, or someone did this to make a statement, knowing that there would be a lot of people here to see what happened.
Makes about as much sense. But don't know why it would be the latter part. It's not like the Lamberts are that big of a family. Yeah, they're kind of a small family from what I remember. And that this bitch didn't even have any vampire blood in her. It's probably why she was able to fall like a like a chump.
Melodia smiles and looks to Constantine, and Constantine can see that the smile is one concealing barely held back rage. And she's looking at him as if to say, do you want to be mad at him verbally? Or should I do it?
Constantine just like without he kind of exchanges a look and an expression where it's just like there and he's like, there are too many guys here. Keep it level.
It's like, well, yeah, but if she was a human, why would any vampire here bother to offer off, or to get her to end her like this? Who knows? Seems like a waste to me. I mean, if they just wanted the blood, they could have just waited until after the show and grabbed her by the neck.
Like I said, a statement. Not necessarily about her. A statement could be the simple fact that someone could get away with this in front of a room full of dozens and dozens of the Camarella's best and highest.
Yeah, but why would they try to off the human then? We don't give a shit. Yeah, in fact, if anything, we'd probably just clean up the mess and toss her out anyway.
Melodia steps closer. I believe you should be taking this more seriously.
Well, then again, maybe the fact that she was a human and not wasn't the point. Maybe it's just more the fact that they were able to get in here and do it to begin with.
I'm glad one of you has sense. Perhaps if you'd spend more time using your brain cells for what they're supposed to be used for, instead of using them to talk shit, you'd have gotten to that conclusion a little sooner.
You think you see what the one bodyguard going, hey, but the other one just sort of like, don't.
Constantine is barely concealing like doing his sort of like raspy chuckling, and you can almost kind of hear it from way out there. It almost sounds like a cat about ready to hack up something. Just
Melodia puts her hands behind her back and goes to pace a little bit, as if in thought. She's trying to connect dots. She says out loud, the most likely connection that we have is that someone did this to prove a point to us, or specifically the Camarella, that they could get away with something like this in broad daylight. It has nothing to do with the victim. The victim could practically be completely unrelated. The whole purpose of this was to prove a point, and to make a statement, to shock everyone here with the events that transpired. The victim is pointless. Any other option seems unlikely. Her family was too small for there to likely be any sort of personal vendetta between her and the person who killed her. Though it is still an option, it's significantly less likely. Meanwhile, the other, third, and least likely option would be that the person who did this would want to frame our man Philip here. However, it would be way too sloppy for someone who managed to go this far to go to that length without doing anything such as putting blood on him to convince us more thoroughly that he's the killer. So, that leaves us with the most obvious option. We've already ruled that out. The question now is why would someone want to proof this message to us? And who would want to proof this message to us?
Then you see the two guards just sort of, rubbing their chins and sort of thinking for a moment on that on that question. Well, you don't think it was an anarch job, did you?
Melodia glances at Constantine before looking at them and just saying, I highly doubt it was the Anarchs.
Constantine, he overhears this and he just throws up his hands like, dude, wasn't me. Don't start.
Hmm.
In fact, I'm fairly certain this wasn't the Anarchs. They wouldn't be so bold. You'd think they'd want to be, wouldn't you? But that's the point. That is the point. I think this isn't the Anarchs. I think this is someone trying to frame them. Consider it like that. Someone does something that seems like something the Anarchs would do. However, it's a little too brainless to be their MO. But if everyone here believes it's the Anarchs, it does start up more conflict with them.
Constantine is just sort of pacing around as well, thinking. He's stepping over the pools of blood where he's absent-mindedly pacing.
Hey, don't. What about the crime scene? I'm really gonna argue that.
And he's and he thinks for a second, and you see him almost absently, moving his hands into weird and different gestures. And eventually, he all of a sudden stops what he's doing, and it's like he's staring down directly at the ground. And he is really thinking about this. He keeping the same sort of I got it expression, which is almost sort of blank. He turns on his heel and he looks over and he goes over to he turns over to Melodia and the rest of them, and he says, and he asks in sign language, who benefits the most from us infighting?
Melodia asks the question out loud, just in case the guards can't read what he says.
Huh. Well, I guess the Sabbat, but they're a dead organization. The Camarilla kind of made sure of that.
And he asks again. This time we'll think, who would benefit from us infighting? Why? And he basically asks, why would? And it's says, who would frame this crime? Because all it would do would cause us to kill each other. And who would like nothing more than for us to kill each other?
I don't know, someone spurned for the position of prince, maybe?
And he does a little thing where he takes both of his arms, puts them at straight angles, and he puts them up in front of him, making the rough shape of a cross.
The Inquisition?
He nods.
Huh. Well, that was really... Usually they just come barging in with fucking crossbows and holy water. Yeah, that would be just kind of the easiest way to go about
And
it.
he
That's about how long ago I saw them. Last I saw them, they used fucking crossbows and holy water.
he basically just signs to them saying, while most of them are very upfront about their tactics, it's not out of the question that they would want to stage this kind of infighting. We will do their work for them.
Wait a minute. Why didn't you say that Percy kid was here tonight?
He was. He's the one who invited us.
Then why would they go after a human unless it was to... The face of the other guard just sort of dropped. Unless they wanted a distraction. Those two guards immediately run.
What a fine distraction it was. Melodia,
Constantine pops up on his feet and he motions down the way.
Melodia takes one last glance at the disappearing bloodied footprints before following after Constantine. Melodia tells Theodore on the way out to remain there so that he can help watch what remains of the crime scene, as well as Philip. Keep an eye on this place, basically.
Theodore nods and is like, of course, milady. So you tried going out to where you at least think he might have parked. The guards go out there, they're still searching. Is like, I don't see where the fuck is his limo? Doesn't he? No, he wouldn't take a limo here. He'd take some sort of fancy Cadillac or something. I don't know. Well, find it, you dipshit. We have to find him. And you see guards basically scurrying all around the parking lot trying to find him. So what do you do?
Constantine is going to have Melodia help him hotwire a car.
Alright. Fuck yeah. Constantine goes for that and motions for her to follow, and she's like, what are we? Oh, illegal activity. And she's like, yes.
He what was it? Yeah, that's my dog's barking. So while all of this is happening, they run towards the car, and you notice that he breaks into the passenger side window, and he's a little rusty at it, but he's not that bad at it, and it's kind of sparking in his face a little bit, so he's just he holds up the wires up to Melodia's face, come on, you do it.
So Melodia's just like, okay, and she proceeds to try.
Okay, so from Melodia, I'm going to have to go ahead and have you roll specifically a. Since you're trying to hack into a car, I guess that would be. I guess that would be more like a drive and wits test. Like drive and wits or technology and wits. Whichever one you want to do.
Yep.
See what
Well,
they do. Oh, okay. So you do. It's a little difficult for you to do at first, as you know, it is just a smidgen tricky. Uh, but eventually you do. With a few little helps and hints from Constantine, you eventually do get the car running and revving and starting. It's a little difficult to start. It's a little jumpy and glitchy to stop at first, but it eventually revs up and you hear the motor running and it's ready to go.
just as a little aside, I wanted to have this little bit where the original owner of the car isn't too far off, and he sees that they're trying to steal his car, and he goes over and he's like, "Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing?" And Constantine literally just walks up to him and punches his teeth out, and the guy just falls onto the ground.
Yeah, you do eventually you do see some uh, hair slicked back looking, I guess what you assume to be one of the other Ventru patrons, just sort of like, "Hey, what the fuck are you?" And all the other girls just, "What?"
Melodia, you know what? Can I say something as a suggestion?
Yeah,
It's the
sure.
guy. It's the guy specifically that earlier Constantine had said kicked him in the head at some point. The one that Melodia said owed her dad money.
Yeah, we'll say for the sake of that, it's that guy.
Melodia goes over to him and starts patting his pockets while he's down. Like, where is it? Where's your wallet? I would like to see your wallet, sir.
You do.
She pulls
It's
it out and looks at his ID and is like, should I just take the ID or should I memorize his name? I don't want to waste precious brain space remembering his name.
What was it? While she's doing that, Constantine just shrugs take it or leave it.
He just takes the whole wallet.
No, you know what? I think the way that this panned out is that he literally knew which one was his car. He specifically did this out of spite.
Yep.
These two together are fucking horrible. Like Constantine, which is funny because when we first saw Constantine and Melodia, it's like, oh, Constantine's gonna fucking hate her. They're not gonna get along because Constantine doesn't like the hoity-toity type. But Melodia's a child, so she's fucking feral, which means that they're just awful together. It's so bad. But yes, Melodia steals his whole ass wallet before hopping into the car.
Yep. And he just gets some of the and he gets some of the stuff put in, and he gets he checks all the stuff on the car, and then when Melodia is presumably sitting shotgun, he's just for a moment he's just he stops her, and then he motions to the seatbelt.
She's like, oh yes, of course, and she buckles herself.
Anyway, so I would like to see if they can just try and find this person by car, or try and find the limousine.
Limousine, Cadillac, or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Okay. So roll me a drive test.
That is let's see, drive
And wits,
and
I'm going to say.
drive and wits, so it's just a wits check again.
Unfortunately.
Oh well.
Let's
I
see
did this
how
to
you-
myself. I did this to myself.
If you need Melodia to try driving,
Uh,
she has 3 die in that.
I will
Well-
say, why don't we do the following? Okay, I'm going to offer you something. So, do you want me to go ahead and just interpret the role as it's interpreted? Or are you wanting a success but a consequence?
We could do success but a consequence.
Cool. All right, so you are able to drive the car and able to, find them well enough. You find the suspicious looking car. I mean, you assume it's suspicious because, the back of the license plate there is no license plate. It's completely blank. And it's the oldest, ugliest looking car in the place. So you can't imagine that it's one of the patrons' cars or anything. So you're following that, and you continue following that. And eventually the guy, notices that you're following him. And, he eventually kicks it into high gear and begins, driving dangerously through traffic. And you are following soon behind him. So you're in this big, loud car chase, going through traffic lights, swerving back and forth. Melodia bumping and sliding in the back with the dangerous driving and everything.
Oh no,
And
shotgun, baby.
Shotgun? Okay, cool. But eventually you two do meet sort of face to face. But before you can really get a good face on him, he does try to ram you, or at least sort of bump into you on the side. And it's just sort of like trying to get you to crash into either one of the lampposts or into the wall.
Is it from Melodia's side or the driver's side?
Quick question. Yes, which side?
Driver's side.
Okay. I would like to make a firearms check.
Sure, make a firearms check.
Will that be firearms plus dexterity?
Yee.
Cool, fantastic. So we're going to roll 6d10 this time. I'm getting fancy tonight. Oh Christ. You got 4 successes.
3 because the 1 takes 1 off, but still, that's 3 fucking successes.
That is 3
That is 3.
successes.
So this guy trying to ram into him, he's like trying to ram into him thinking he's doing all this hot shit. And Constantine, literally without missing a beat, with his right hand on the wheel, takes out his, what was it? Takes his Glock out of his jacket with his left hand, smashes the driver's side window, and while staring directly at the guy in this most fucking horrifying death stare, fires 2 shots directly near his shoulder.
Yep, so you fire directly into his shoulder. And I'm going to say with the other successes, after he holds his arm just sort of like, motherfucker, you decided to pop a couple into the tires on his side. So pop, pop. Yep, pop 2 into his tires, and that is enough to cause him to swerve and swerve and swerve until eventually he crashes. He crashes into the side of a building.
I will say that Constantine stops the car like very, very abruptly. He doesn't crash it, but he like stops it very suddenly so as to not get caught into the wreckage. And like, even though Melodia has like a seatbelt, he consciously holds her like he's catching her with his hand that's not on the driver's side or not on the steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
When they come to a complete stop.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
He
you are
puts the car into park.
safely park. Pop, lock. just nice, slowly, and weirdly proper. But yeah, you do see the guy. He gets out of the side of his car and tries to go into the back of his car to grab something from the back and run.
Ooh, can Melodia hurry over to the car? You know what? She's gonna run up to, like, the car, and the window's open, right? Because of the fucking gunshots.
Yep, both of them are just broken.
She's gonna push her umbrella tip in through the window and just blast one of her escape gas canisters in there so that it just fills the car with smoke, so the guy's basically gonna be coughing up a fucking lung.
Cool. So that will be, if you're using one of your canisters, that will be a firearms check. So firearms and dexterity. So go ahead and do that for me. Pinpoint and perfect. And I'm going to say with that perfect of a shot, he's trying to get out and he's going to try to get into the back to grab something, but you pop the canister right in between the eyes. He's like, motherfucker! And smoke immediately begins to billow out as he immediately tries to get out of the car to get out of the smoke as he's coughing, just sort of like, fucking vampire cunt. He tries to. Oop, hello. Sorry, I thought I hit my wire. Hold on.
Well,
Okay, wire strong. I thought I broke it. Oh no. Anyways, headphones are fine. Anyway, so he's coughing out, and he tries to reach for his gun on his side, and he tries. He pulls it out, but he's still kind of coughing with his eyes closed and stuff, and he hasn't pulled it out to aim yet.
I just want Constantine to do a brawl. Well, would it be okay, if he's punching him and not using his knife, that would just be, I guess, a brawl check?
Yeah. If you're trying to just deck him, essentially.
Yeah, okay, so we'll do brawl, and that's
Brawl and strength.
5d10.
Well, either
That's
brawl and
5d10.
strength or brawl and dex. So whichever one.
It's definitely going to be brawl and strength. Roll. Yep. He succeeds, and what he fucking does, he puts his gun into his jacket pocket, and when the guy reaches for his gun, in 2 motions, Constantine gets the guy's shooting arm, and he kind of breaks it by punching the guy's hand directly into his face. He grabs his hand and goes with the gun going smack into his forehead.
Melodia sees this happen and is just like, oh! And claps a bit. Just like, get his ass!
Yeah. But he breaks the guy's shooting arm, and he punches the guy, and he punches the hand which is holding the gun into his forehead, basically. That sounds weird, but kind of makes sense, I guess.
So yep, driver is bleeding onto the ground as he's trying to scurry to find his gun again to try to aim and shoot. But I'm guessing has Constantine basically kicked that to the other side of it or something?
He would.
Yeah.
Melodia goes
He's
up to
probably at that point pinning the guy to the side of the car.
Yep.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, I was gonna say Melodia approaches the guy and it's just like, hello there. You've done a very bad thing tonight.
He spits in your face.
It hits her cheek and her eye is wide. and her smile remains unshaken. But there is a deep undercurrent of rage, just tossing and turning in her gaze. And I would like to use.
You would like to what now?
I would like to use dementation.
Cool. Get a rouse check on that.
I need to remember how a rouse check works.
Well, it depends on how much that rouse how much it costs, I guess. Here, I have the vampire book. Here, let me just. Whoa. So, rousing blood. Come on, index. I think it's just rolling however much it costs and seeing if it's above 6 or not, because that'll determine whether or not you hungry. Yeah, it's 1, 2, 11. I might need to update it. Look. Let's check. Rousing blood. There you go. Okay, so it's just a singular dice. So you roll a singular d10. Okay, let's see. Ooh, okay, so it is a success.
No hungry. No hungry yet.
Yep, does not gain a hunger. Okay.
Yes. No, she casts dementation and just says to him, I would prefer if you would use your words before you lose your ability to use them at all.
Well, right. What? And you see him really kind of struggling as he feels as though something is burrowing into his head.
What have you done? Where have you taken Percy?
You see him moving his mouth from side to side, as though his tongue were trying to get at something in his mouth.
Constantine, please smack him.
Constantine does this. He what was it? He still has the guy's what was it? He still has the guy pinned down with one of his other hands, and he very gently, well, I wouldn't say gently, but with his other hand, he sticks out his thumb, and on the two fresh wounds that he left in that guy's shoulder, he just pushes it in there a little bit.
And he does scream, just bellowing out, "Mother vampire motherfucker!"
And before he gets a lot of the words out, you can see Constantine shifts his arm up a bit so he bites into his jaw. Just goes.
So, Melodia motions for Constantine to take his thumb away from the wound real quick.
He does.
Melodia lifts up her umbrella, and it's one of those umbrellas that has the tip, obviously, otherwise it wouldn't be able to shoot out the gas. She lifts it up and very gently just nudges the sharp tip of the umbrella against the wound, as if the threat is there that she could just launch it in. And she looks at him and says, I want you to answer my questions so I don't have to get nasty. You're a rather nasty man and you deserve it, but I would prefer to keep myself clean.
And he is. Let's see. Let me just get to. You said you used dementia, right? That's like a.
That's him going insane the more I talk to him.
Okay. Just trying to remember what that discipline was, because I think that's a mind control. Or that's a domination one, I think.
Yeah, it's part of the dominate one.
Okay. That's getting me nowhere. 254. Because this will determine if he's able to do what he's able to do next. Okay. Dominate. Mesmerize. Dementation. Okay. So you do see that it does eventually sort of begin to take hold as he does begin sort of muttering to himself. But you catch him trying to hold it back as he then begins repeating scripture. He begins reading various lines of the Bible, just sort of muttering those under his breath as though he's trying his hardest to keep his thoughts in line. But you do know that it's kind of breaking a bit. The boy is trying to keep his sanity.
Melodia hums thoughtfully at the sight, and she just says, "A valiant effort. Not enough." And she just plunges the tip of the umbrella into his wound. She watches, and if he doesn't react more, she wiggles the tip a little.
You'll all burn on pyres for this.
Oh, yes, yes, burn, burn, burn we shall, us horrible beasts. Do you think I chose this life? Look at me.
Yet you enjoy it still, monster.
How else is one to stay sane when trapped with such a dark existence, than to find joy in their life despite the circumstance? You would rather us live in misery despite things we cannot control?
I would rather you die like the animals you are, you worthless leech! And you do see that he's trying to reach for something onto his belt.
She pulls. This is gonna be real gross. I'm so sorry. She pulls the tip back a little bit so that it's still lodged in the wound but not fully out. Moves the tip to the side while inside the wound and just plunges it like to the side inside his skin. Basically creating a stab within the open wound into his skin deeper, just like, no, 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 no.
So yeah, glass bottle sort of clips off of his belt, falls to the ground, and breaks. It was a clear liquid. The smell is weirdly salty. Upon the realization of that weirdly salty smell, you understand what type of water that is.
How much longer are you going to fight this?
I'd rather you kill me now and get it over with, because I ain't telling you shit.
Constantine brings up an interesting thing where he doesn't actually say anything, where he just like gives this little, almost a sort of manic grin awakened in him that not even Melodia was entirely aware of. Like this kind of feels almost like a different person has come into him, one that is about to enjoy what he's going to do far more than what normal Constantine would do. And he reaches like under his shirt he's wearing like a little harness, and he pulls out his signature knife. And if you know anything about how fucking big that knife is, it is almost as large as his forearm.
Ooh. That's a big knife.
And yeah. And he basically starts doing a thing where he lets up on the choke. He grabs the guy by the collar and he throws him down to the ground. What kind of shirt is he wearing, actually, I want to say? Like,
He's wearing a suit jacket, so suit jacket, undershirt with no tie or bow tie or anything, and normal dress pants with a belt.
so I'm going to say that he rips open the like jacket and the like shirt to the point where like this guy, like a good chunk of this guy's right tit is exposed. And he takes the knife and he starts making one, and he makes one quick stroke just directly into there. Just
Did he just cut his nipple off?
no, he didn't. He's actually carving something in there bit by
Bro,
bit.
your titty out. Bro, your titty out.
Okay, so what is he carving in there?
That depends on how much the guy cooperates. It doesn't look like anything right now.
Well, I mean, when you open up the shirt and everything, you do realize he does have tattoos on him, at least on the chest where you opened it. There are words on his chest, and they all seem to be written in some Latin.
And so Constantine makes that little like those two little cuts into the guy. I'm sure it is painful, of course,
Yep.
right?
They are very painful. He screams, and he tries to struggle underneath you, but it's all for naught.
And you're fine with me doing this thing, by the way, I'm just asking.
Yeah, go on ahead.
Okay, cool. So, is the guy cooperating?
Nope. He's still struggling. He's still fighting.
So the more the guy struggles, the more elaborate he makes this sort of symbol, until eventually, when he finishes with it, he just kind of takes the knife and twists it in the middle a bit. When he's finished, he seems quite proud of his work. Then he grabs the guy sort of by the collar, and with the other hand, he like motions to his handiwork, to Melodia. And what he did is that he carved a St. Peter's cross directly into the guy's chest.
Melodia clasps her hands together, and she seems thoughtful before she says, raise it, even to the foundation, O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed. How happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. And she walks up to him and she says, Oh, how merciful your God is, to have allowed this to happen to you.
Don't repeat scripture to me, you vampire bitch.
All right. I'll quote something else at you then.
Then she just quotes Pulp Fiction. My name is the Lord, as I lay my vengeance upon thee.
She points the umbrella at him and she says, Go fuck yourself on a chainsaw. And then she smiles.
But now, eventually, the dimension has sort of sunk in, as now he cannot hold it back anymore. He is now basically just speaking random words in Latin and random verses that he can remember from the Bible as well. Again, ironic that someone told him not to repeat scripture, but that seems to be all he's really able to do now, as he is just babbling this just crazily. So yeah, congratulations. His mind is now fully broken.
And while this is happening, you can see Constantine's smile just sort of fade for a second until eventually you feel almost a sense of clarity come back to him for a second. And then he looks very disappointed, not horrified, just disappointed. He grabs the guy's like side of the head and his neck, and he just fucking bashes it on the side of the car, then drops the guy, just goes, and he just falls limp to the side.
Yep. So yep, he is knocked the fuck out.
Melodia moves to check the back of the car.
You see what looks to be rolled up carpet.
He was coming for something back here. And she starts to unroll it.
It is a knocked out and passed out Percy, wrapped around what seems to be various religious sort of symbols, which seem to have sort of knocked him out.
Melodia starts dragging him out of the car like,
Constantine sees the immediate struggle, and he just dusts himself off for a second and helps Melodia from the other side and just goes, eh. and they push him out onto the side there.
Yeah, Melodia leans down to Percy and is like, I believe he should wake up now. And she just smacks him. We have saved you once again, dear Percy.
What happened?
I feel
Why
like
am I wearing crosses?
he can probably see like the guy that took him, like with his shirt open, the fucking stabbed in cross, fucking wounds that have been messed with. The guy's just fucking beat up to hell.
Yep, he is just sort of like, yeah.
And Constantine notices that he's like wreathed in crosses and religious symbols. So he quickly just tears them off of Percy, even though it like burns his hand a little when he does it. Like you hear a little sizzle, just, and he just tosses them on the ground.
Thank you. You're right. It does seem that I owe you my lives again. And he stops as you notice him looking up and staring at something. And then he screams. He screams, "Move!"
Melodia looks back in a panic at whatever he was looking at.
The only thing you see is a man in white armor covered in bits of red cross, as he, instead of pulling out what would be just sort of, instead of like a gun that you would expect him to hold, he grabs what looks to be a very large looking sort of medieval cannon that has been decked out in various bits of, also little bits of technology on top of it. He's carrying it kind of like a Gatling gun. As you see him just with, once he just pulls that rope and pulls that trigger, this explosive begins hurling and flying its way towards you.
Melodia opens her umbrella.
Okay, do for me. Let's see.
Would
I'm
this
gonna
be
go
to just do
fire.
it fast enough?
Well, if you're using it to protect, right? Not to
Yes.
fire.
Yeah, to protect.
Okay, so just like an athletics or a dexterity, athletics dexterity roll, I'll say.
I want Constantine to protect the boy in like a sort of dodge move.
Same thing.
Well, Melodia is sitting like in front of him, I imagine. So I think when she pulls that out, she's literally pulling it out to shield both of them.
He's still going to grab the kid and like put him up to his chest.
Yeah.
So as the ball comes, because you did do a success, as the cannonball just sort of rockets its way towards you, upon the very brief split-second inspection, that ain't like a normal like lead cannonball. That's like a. It is kind of like an iron sort of ball that, upon contact with your umbrella, does explode in what can only be described as a big super fuck off inferno, as just like a almost mushroom cloud-esque just sort of explosion just happens on your location. Like everything in the area is burnt and destroyed. And after the fire and explosion sort of clears a little bit, you do find that your area with the umbrella, conspicuously, did hold intact, although there's a lot of scorch marks and a big old fucking dent in the middle of that umbrella now.
I'll have to get this repaired. And so soon after I got it.
Constantine is still clutching Percy like very closely to his chest. Like he's kind of got this expression of on his face.
Melodia is looking at the guy who fired. And in particular, are there cracks in his armor? Like where the different plates of armor have to like meet and separate?
Yeah, although underneath it you do sort of see it's got chainmail underneath, and he does sort of look to see if his work is done, and he sees you holding out the umbrella. He just sort of nod, a small nod of the head like, oh, huh. But he just sort of slumps the cannon up and just sort of turns around and walks away.
No, the fuck he doesn't. Melodia is gonna do what I like to call a pro gamer move. She wants to run up. She's obviously shutting her umbrella to do this. She wants to, or she doesn't even need to. She wants to run up and shove the tip into like any crack in the armor, so that she can just shoot her one canister of acid gas directly into it.
Okay, that'll be a dexterity firearms check. Which means Mr. Man's gonna have to do his own
Shit!
fire.
This fucking one! Fuck you, one! Fuck you, one! God damn it, one!
I switched setups. Oh shit!
He lost 2 of his 4 successes, so he only has 2 successes.
Indeed, but he still is able to. So you tried to do that, but with the free arm that isn't carrying the cannon, you see on the little bracer bit of armor that he has on, with sort of a flick or just sort of a wiggle of his fingers, it activates sort of a rolling mechanism that sort of then sort of forms like this large tower shield looking thing to sort of appear. And he forms that. And on top of it, of course, it does have a big red cross once again, as he uses that to basically just sort of like take your little explosive and just sort of hit it back to the side with just sort of a ping, ting, and he hits it away. Some of the acid does sort of hit onto the metal, but it only dissolves it like a little bit. And it sort of shinks back into his arm again as he sort of looks at you, sort of with a look of like, oh, really?
Melodia sit back down. She just kind of fixes him with a stare, and she's just like, if I don't kill you tonight, it will be another day.
Aye. Aye, you're probably right. But I do think that you might want to wait a little bit on that. Because here's the thing. I could take you, and I could kill you right now. I say you take your lucky little blessings of that umbrella, and you start walking away. At least, until that car of yours explodes in the next few seconds. Ta-ta.
Melodia glares, but she does step back, and she's like, shit.
Want Constantine to do the dodge roll?
All of you do the dodge roll.
He once again has Percy clutched close to his chest just as he was about to let go of him. He goes, and he just makes a dive to the side.
I'll just say you do get out of the way. The car does explode. And you do notice that, after the car's done exploding, the body of the other hunter that you had before is thoroughly charred and burnt. So Percy's just sort of like, the crossman. He was the one that actually caught me. The other one was just the driver. He was the distraction. That crossman, he was able to kill Brutus. Oh my god, he was able to kill Brutus.
I don't think you're safe anymore.
Constantine, he gets up a little bit. Well, obviously Percy was under him. He had to get up. He had to get up after him. But he kind of he looks back and he takes off his ratty sports coat, and the explosion burned or shredded most of the back of it off. So he doesn't even need to take it off traditionally because it just falls off his back. And he kind of sighs a little bit in disappointment.
I think we should leave quickly before he changes his mind.
Constantine nods.
Melodia is strangely silent. but she does move to follow when they leave.
So, as you two leave the scene, you do see sort of a differing scene off to the side, unbeknownst to you, as you see the man covered in white armor with the red crosses, as he activates sort of a communicator on his wrist, as he's just sort of like, yeah, he botched it. Well, I mean, that's what you get when you decide to throw in a rookie to do it. What did you think? That the cyanide pill would be the one to keep him quiet? You're lucky I came in with a cannon. Otherwise, otherwise that would have gotten messy for you. Uh-huh. Yeah. Alrighty then. Yeah, I'll go ahead and take care of it myself. You don't worry about that. Oh, looks like I'm gonna bag me a lion. This'll be fun. And as he then just sort of walks off. And I'm going to go ahead and call it here tonight. So you can go ahead and stop the recording if you'd like.